everyone, it's Myriam and welcome back to another video. Quick announcement before I get into it. I have now launched a Patreon. The link is in the description below if you guys are interested in checking out the rewards and supporting me. It's obviously not compulsory in any shape or form and my content on YouTube will stay pretty much the same. However, if you are interested in checking it out, I already have some of the rewards available, including 2 sketchbooks in their entirety available as downloadable PDFs. They are sketchbooks I will be doing tools for on my YouTube in a few weeks, so you can go and check them out in advance and up close on my Patreon if you're interested. Otherwise, they will be as tools in the next few weeks. I also have a detailed process PDF of the piece that you're seeing on your screen right now. It includes all my materials, all my reference, and a step-by-step in pictures of how I painted it. So if you guys are interested in the full process for this painting, head over to my Patreon. The link is in the description below. And the last self-promo bit I wanted to talk about is the fact that I now have a Twitch channel for those of you who aren't aware. The link is in my description below. Also, if you want to join me for live streams, probably a couple times a week in the future. I haven't quite settled on the schedule yet, but that will be all updated on my Twitch page if you want to know, or on Instagram if you guys follow me on there too. So for this week I'm going to be painting the first piece I did for the Month of Love challenge. I skipped the first week because I think it was only 2 days or 3 days to do a piece and I just didn't have the time, and I went straight to the second week, and the prompt for that week was blue. So this is a piece you might actually have seen me sketch out in a couple of videos back, and the title is Golem, and it's inspired by kintsugi, kintsukuroi, the technique of the Japanese, I think, technique of fixing a broken porcelain object with gold. I did the painting in gouache on 638, I think. I'm not exactly sure of the precise number, but over 600 GSM paper, watercolor paper. It's really quite an expensive paper, and it's beautiful and it doesn't buckle and you don't have to stretch it and you don't have to tape it down, and it's gorgeous and I love it and I want to use it more, and I don't have the money to do it. So I was really stressed about this painting because the paper was so important to me that I didn't want to screw it up, but I'm actually quite happy with how it turned out. And no, I did not use golden ink for the gold in the painting. It's all painted with gouache. I hope you guys will enjoy this painting, and I also have the originals and prints available on my shop if you guys are interested. So the voiceover for this video will be me answering questions that you guys have asked me when I requested questions for a Q&A, and I actually got an overwhelming amount of questions, so I can't fit them all in one video unless I want this video to be over an hour long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be dividing all the questions into different categories and do 1 or 2 or 3 videos answering those questions. So this first video is going to be all the questions I got concerning my process, so my style, my painting style, my techniques, my approach to my own art. And then next week I will be doing a giveaway video, and for that video I'll also be answering questions about my art career and my process and how I got where I am now. And I'll also include all the questions that weren't quite art related, like what books I read, what music I listen to, and things like that, things that were a bit more personal. Hopefully I can include all the questions I got into those 2 videos. If I didn't include your question in any of them, it probably means that I replied to you personally, so definitely check out the comment you left me and see if I've replied to you on there. So let's jump straight in those questions. The first and main question I got across the board, the most popular question I get just generally on social media, is where do I get my inspiration from? And I actually decided to make an entire video about that, and it's my previous video to this one. You guys may have watched it. I just talk about tips on how to find inspiration for art, and obviously I pull that from my own experience and explain a little bit how I come up with my own ideas. It's a difficult topic for me to talk about just because I don't have a very straightforward answer. There is no particular thing I do or particular place I go to find inspiration. One main advice that I would give that works really well for me is to keep every picture that you feel is inspiration to you. So anything that kind of sparks an emotional response and makes you want to create something, even if you don't know at that point what it is, I'd say keep it in a folder. That's what I do. I've got a folder called Inspiration Bases, and I literally go into it as soon as I feel blocked for ideas, and I end up usually not painting anything that's in that folder but because all those pictures were things that had sparked inspiration and creativity in me, then they tend to do it again as soon as I look at them again. So having a massive folder of loads of images like that really helps me. But I don't have really specific things that trigger me. So it was a bit of a tough question for me to answer. I'll try and say the names of the people who ask me questions, but for that one I just had too many people ask it. So I'd recommend watching my previous videos if you guys would like to know more about my process and a few tips I can give given from my experience. And I'll just move on to the next question for now. So Karen Zohar, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, asks, how much do you rely on reference, and how do you manage drawing your more surreal and fantastical elements without reference? First part of the question, how much do I rely on reference? I rely on reference a lot, and that would be the main advice I would give to anyone really. I don't understand the stigma behind using reference. It's not a plague. You're not a bad artist for using reference. In fact, using reference is the best way to ensure that you are learning properly and that you are picking up the right habits and the right visual references and building yourself a visual library that actually has a solid base. I am all for reference. Honestly, it's just one of those things I think makes an artist's work better and more correct and richer, and it's just a key element to evolving well as an artist, I think. I'll probably do an entire video on reference and how I use it, but usually my pieces are patchworks of reference, so every single little element has a different reference, and the reference isn't something I copy, it's something I analyze how that particular thing I want to draw looks like lighting or hair or specific texture or pose, and then I try to apply that to the concept I'm trying to create, basically. But that's something that you can find that I'll do a proper video about. How do I manage to draw my more surreal and fantastical elements without reference? Well, there's always some kind of reference for anything, even if it's fantastical or surreal. There's always elements that you'll be able to find some kind of reference for, but also you can get away with a lot. So if things aren't trying to be really realistic, or if they don't have any basis in real life, you could just get away with a lot of things. So lighting can be a bit more wrong. You can take a lot more liberties and it will work, because what you're going for isn't realism, it's something that's surreal or fantastical, and so you can get away with quite a bit more. And also practice. There's just a lot of things that I've learned through drawing from reference that I can now draw without reference, really. So it's a combination of different things. So the next question comes from Swirly2132, and they say, what made you want to paint sketch monsters? That's an incongruous question, because a lot of people usually expect me to answer films and books and stuff, and it's neither, really. I always painted monsters. As far as I can possibly remember myself drawing, I always drew monsters and creatures, and I started off with dragons and then just expanded from there. I suppose it's kind of that thing where I just read a lot of fantasy, so I suppose it must have come somewhere from there. I can't really figure out a direct causal link between all of it, but it's probably kind of a melting pot of reasons. It was just one of those things. It's just I've always painted monsters, and I remember thinking, what do I want to do as a job? And I wanted to do something with monsters, and then someday I realized that creature design is an actual job. And I remember my mind being absolutely blown at that concept and just thinking, that's it, that's exactly for me. And it's still something I'd like to pursue one day, maybe. But at the moment, I'm more into doing my own stuff. But I don't know, it's just always been that thing I do, paint and sketch monsters, and I was that kid. Next question is from Sol Raglem, and they ask, 4 artists that you love or talk some things of their art style. I wouldn't be able to tell you whether I've talked some things of their art style, because that's just not, my art style isn't a conscious thing. I don't pick things from other people's styles consciously. I'll probably pick stuff up from my favourite artists, because we all do, but I wouldn't really be able to tell you what. My favourite artists are usually people who make me strive to do better and learn certain things. So the main one I can tell you about is Moebius, who's also whose real name is Yong Jie. He's a kind of graphic novel artist from Belgium. He's passed away unfortunately, but he's an incredible master at colour and composition, character building and scenery. He's just incredible from start beginning to end. And he's made me want to learn more about colour and colour theory and composition and drawing strange, surreal, ethereal landscapes. And I love his work to no bounds. The next artist I really, really love is Jo Cooper, and I discovered her when I started Instagram. She inspired me to get back into sketching and practice drawing animals more. The next one is Yong Jie. I think that's how you pronounce his name. His skill is out of this world. He should draw anything without reference. He just does it in a pen and that's it. And it's incredible. And it just makes me want to practice. All I want to do when I see his work is just keep practicing and try and get better. And then the last one in those four would be James Gurney. He's an incredible painter, and I'd highly recommend you guys check it out if you want to learn more about gouache, because he's just incredible, and I learned so much from just watching his paintings and his studies, and he's amazing, and he's very generous with his knowledge too. So I definitely recommend anyone if you guys check him out. I'll post links to all these artists down below if you guys want to check them out anyway. The next question comes from Whimspiel Art, and they ask, what music and or books do you like, and are these mediums an inspiration for you? Why not? I don't listen to a lot of music. I know that might sound a bit strange, but I just don't. I used to listen a lot more and just stopped in recent years. I'm not sure why. When I do listen to music, it's more like inspirational kind of music, like stuff that gets me wheeled up, like film music and epic music and stuff like that. But it's very rare. Books wise, my favourite genre is fantasy, and my favourite author is, actually I have a few now, but the main one is Brandon Sanderson. I have read so much fantasy since I was tiny that I've become really picky and snobby about fantasy books, and now I find it really difficult to find really good ones. But I always manage to find one somewhere. Are these mediums an inspiration for you? Yeah, probably. They're not consciously something that I pull from, but I'm pretty sure they probably inform my work quite a lot. Like, I know that reading something makes me want to draw afterwards. So yeah, definitely. Why not? Well, I'm not sure how to answer that. I think other people's imagination is just a great source of inspiration for me as a general theme. Next question comes from Feels Like Flying. So here goes my question. Did you improve your art by yourself, or did you get support from external sources such as tutors, teachers before? I mostly improved my art by myself. I did do like specialise and major in art when I was in high school, but we didn't learn how to draw. We mostly learned about art history. So I never had a teacher for drawing or painting. My stepmom helped me a little bit when I was starting out with watercolour, but I think that was it. So no, I'm mostly self-taught, and external sources are obviously very much something that I looked at, like videos and books and such, but no, I never had a person personally instruct me, if that makes sense. Crazy Bayside asks, what is your favourite sketchbook to use? That's a difficult one to answer because I use so many different mediums, but I suppose my favourite one at the moment is the Rowney graduate sketchbook, because the paper is 160 GSM, which is a nice mixed media paper, works nice with gouache for sketches at least, and the paper has a slight texture to it, so drawing on it with a pencil feels really nice. So at the moment that's my favourite. Taz Coleman asks, which of your art pieces are your favourite, and which do you wish to go back to change in the future, if any, and why? It's a tough one, because which ones do I wish to change, to go back and change in the future? Honestly, every single one of them. As soon as I finish a piece, I'm unhappy with it. Not unhappy in the, oh my god, this is terrible way. Just in the, oh, I probably can improve and do better in the future kind of way. So every time I finish a piece, I'm like, okay, let's move on to the next and let's do better. So I could go back and change the pieces I'm not happy with, and I wish I would, because my pride wants to fix them and make them up to the standard I'm at that point. But at the same time, I get really bored of the pieces I've finished. I want to move on and do other things and do all the other ideas I have. So I doubt I'll go back to change anything. I might draw it again one day, but one piece that I would like to redraw is my In Memoriam piece. I really like the idea behind that one, and I would like to revisit it because there are things that really irk me in it, and it makes me sad that they irk me in a concept that I really enjoyed. So I might go back and do that one at some point, but I don't have any favourite pieces. They all have kind of a different, they're all part of my process, and so they all represent different things. And at the same time, they're all in the past. So now I just want to move on. Demetrius Blanton asks, do you prefer character artwork or scenery pieces? Clearly character artwork. I'm not very good at scenery pieces. I want to get better at them, but I really do prefer character artwork, especially kind of human orientated with kind of dark elements and creature elements to them. So yeah, characters. Next question is by Song of the Shadows, and they ask, when did you know your art style was the right one and made you feel proud of it? I never did, and art style was never something I thought about. Every so often I would think, am I having a style that's too different from one piece to the other, and is that detrimental to my progress as an artist? But that's rarely a question I ask myself, and style isn't really at the forefront of my concerns when it comes to creating pieces. I just tend to draw what I feel like drawing in the way I like to draw, and I don't try and make it fit a style. I'm pretty sure that my style is going to evolve quite a lot. There are elements to what I do now that I'm not entirely sure fit me quite yet. I can't imagine ever getting to a point where I'll have a style I'm fully happy with. It's just not something I do consciously. I don't try particularly hard to have a style, and so I don't really know what the right one would be, if that makes sense. The next one is slightly related. The Native Horses asks, you have a very distinct style. I think I could put your work out if it was mixed in with others. Was this something you always strived for? No, really not. Did you have a constant idea in your head that made you keep going until you got the style that you have today? No, it's not so much that I had a particular goal, it's just that I knew that some elements of what I drew I didn't like and I would like to change. So I wasn't trying to strive for a particular style, I just knew that I wanted to get rid of the elements I wasn't very happy with in my own drawings. When you first started with art, how did you overcome any inner voices that told you weren't good enough? I overcome them, but they're still there. It's not something I never got over. I don't think really anyone ever does, to be honest. I don't know, being an artist usually means that you're overly kind of sensitive to a lot of things, and it means you feel things quite a lot, I think, at least for me. So those voices are never going to go away for me. Just my passion to create things is just stronger than my fear of them, to be honest. It's probably a whole video in itself, that question. How do you personally break away from negativity when it comes to creating? Again, I think I'll address that in the video because that's a tough topic and a really interesting one, and I think it deserves its own video, so I hope you don't mind, Native Forces. And the next question is again related to my style. Iskindi asks, how do you turn something like a reference picture into a piece that is uniquely your art style? Because I've noticed that all your figures have the same feeling to them. Again, I don't try. It's not something I do consciously. It's not something I try particularly to make happen. It just does. It just happens that I unconsciously seem to like drawing that way. It seems to fit me better. I seem to be more comfortable with doing it that way, and so it just ends up looking that way. For me, style is like inspiration. I don't think anyone should force it. I think it shows when something is like that is forced. But I'll do a proper video about style at some point, I think. Next question is by a username I am completely incapable of pronouncing, so I'll just put it on the screen. They ask, have you ever gone through a phase where your style was more cartoony, or have you always had more of a realistic art style? I've always had more of a realistic art style. I've never been attracted to cartoony style. I love it in other people. It's just not something that I feel fits me at all. So no, never had a cartoony style that I can remember. Carl Morris Art, a lovely supporter of mine for a long time, asks, what's your absolute least favourite medium and why? I can't really say because I haven't really tried that many of them. I'd say acrylic isn't one I like very much, apparently like you given the rest of your comment. I don't particularly enjoy acrylic, but I feel like I might be prejudiced because that was the first thing I ever tried and didn't succeed. I was not very good when I started out, so I didn't enjoy it. I should try again. I've got loads of it, so I might try. I don't have any that I hate, to be honest. Acrylic's probably my least favourite one, as you say. Mermaida asks, of all your mediums that you've used, what is your favourite? Yeah, I didn't realise I put them in that order. My favourite one is... it really depends on what I want, on what kind of thing I want to paint. I really love watercolour. It's my first love. It's the thing I will always go back to and feel comfortable with. Gouache is my new love. It's the new thing I paint with all the time and love more than anything else at the moment, but that will probably change. And I still have so many to try. So yeah, gouache and watercolour, I suppose. Tanya Sharma asks, I want to know how long it takes you to complete one sketch. Do you finish your work in one sitting or do you take breaks in between? I don't take breaks when I sketch, but I do take breaks when I do a bigger piece. Usually I like to finish things as quickly as possible. I'm not very patient, and so I usually take 2 days and work heavily on one painting. I don't take to jump from one piece to another, if that's what the question means. I do take breaks, like I take coffee breaks and stuff, but I like to finish stuff as quickly as possible, so I don't break when I sketch, and when I'm painting I try to do as many hours in one row as I can. Agate7872 says, what is your real tempo of painting or sketching? I have a video in real time earlier on my channel if you wish, and I'll have other ones coming up, and I'll have some on my Patreon too. It varies very much according to what I'm painting, to be honest. It depends on whether I'm comfortable with the topic or not. I wouldn't be able to tell you what my average is, because I just don't have one. I jump from one piece to another and it just changes drastically, to be honest. But I'd recommend watching my real-time video if you want to see how I paint from reference in gouache and how long that takes me. Rafa Snacks asked, do you ever listen to music when making art? Also, what is your ideal place to create artwork, example studio area? I very rarely listen to music when I make art. I just don't like enough stuff that I could create to myself a playlist I wouldn't get sick of. So I tend to listen to audiobooks and podcasts a lot. What is your ideal place to create artwork? I don't really have many choices, to be honest. I have a wonderful room in which I live that's quite big and has big bay windows that gives into the garden, and so it has loads of light, and that's definitely one of the places I really love being. So I love being here to create art. Anusari Koski asks, do you have always a deeper meaning for your subjects, or do you ever draw something that just because you think it's cool, pretty? It's a bit of both. I never mean to have a deeper meaning in my subjects. I mean, at least consciously. It's not like I throw away an idea because I don't think it means anything. But the ideas that appeal to me enough for me to then draw them or paint them usually feel like they have a deeper meaning. It's just the way my brain works, and my ideas that appeal to my brain seem to be the one I feel can have a stronger symbolism, really. It's not necessarily intentional, it's just the way it seems to work for me. I do sometimes feel like painting things just because they're cool. It's rare though, because again, things don't appeal to me as being cool unless I feel like there's a deeper symbolism to them. So I don't know, it's a swings and roundabouts, I suppose. So I think that's it for the questions for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this little Q&A, and that you'll join me for the next one next week also, in which I'll answer all the rest of your questions. I will also be doing a giveaway next week, so keep an eye out for that. I'll be giving away 2 prizes on my YouTube channel and 2 prizes on my Instagram account, so that way you guys can enter several ones if you want to have a higher chance of winning something. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this video, and especially of this painting. I hope you guys enjoyed it all. I didn't record when I was filming the bowl of gold because it was a really difficult thing to paint, and I got really stressed, so that footage isn't included. I'm sorry. I hope you guys enjoyed it anyway. Take really good care of yourselves, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all next week. Bye everyone.